Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Untitled Marvel Project, a backlog banter series where we break down the latest Marvel content, the Disney Plus series mostly, that are coming out every week. This week, we're talking about episode 1 of our second Disney Plus Marvel series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Our
Mhm.
our fan favorites are back, and your fan favorites are back. It's me, your host, Tanner Dexter, along with my
Oh,
good confidant, Tucker Hazel. Before we get into it, I'd like you to like and subscribe.
good,
Yeah, enter the Discord. If you
good.
want to talk about any Marvel stuff, any superhero stuff, anything in general, bring us
Yeah.
your medical issues on Discord.
No,
We'll
bad
solve
idea.
them. I'll solve them for you. I'm a licensed doctor. But regardless, let's talk about episode 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
Tucker, what
So
were what were your thoughts? Give me your
I
thoughts.
was going into this. We talked a little bit last night about like what we were expecting and sort of setting our expectations in a particular way to not, overhype ourselves. And I was going into this thinking from the trailers what we had seen, buddy cop aspect. I'm excited for. I'm excited to get more information on these two characters that have been around for a long time but have not received a ton of screen time. But I was worried that it was just kind of going to be a generic military superhero action series.
Well,
And I think I was pleasantly surprised by this first
okay,
episode.
okay.
As to what you said, it's a chill episode. It's an introductory
We're just
episode,
kind of hanging
it,
out for a
and
while.
I think that I think it really worked to set my expectations in a way that this is not only going to be pure action sequences, which
Hmm.
I'm sure they'll ramp up as we go on, but there's a more personal, psychological side to the stories that these characters are going to be told throughout this series, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the original plan, pre-pandemic, was that this would precede WandaVision, I
Yeah.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really feel that because going from WandaVision to this, such a high concept thing to such a very low, pretty basic Marvel concept,
Yeah.
you really feel that downgrade. And
Mm-hmm.
it opens with a pretty thrilling action set piece. I really like that. It was the
Yeah.
canyon scene that we've seen in trailers. You said that you thought we were gonna have to wait for that. But there's a very clear reason why I think they opened with that because there's not much else for exciting Marvel action than the rest of this. And the character interaction is just not as interesting as in WandaVision because it
Yeah.
doesn't have that like, oh, what's going on, that sort of weight behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's some certain themes and character things that I'm sure will be explored later to what success or failure we'll have to see. But it's fun seeing Anthony Mackie back, seeing Sebastian Stan back. Of course they don't meet in this episode, so that team
No.
up. I think that'll probably be the sting of the next episode. We're only getting
Okay.
6 this time as well instead of 9. And I don't know. Do you want to talk about who do you want to go first? Bucky or Sam?
Well, I think Sam's kind of the core of this episode.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
I think you're right.
so so I think we talk about that because you're right. It does start off with the action set piece, the canyon sequence, which I think was surprisingly good. I mean, we
Yeah.
we were complaining last episode of WandaVision, CGI not fantastic,
Hmm.
action felt kind of bland, but this was a really unique way to reintroduce us to the Falcon as a character, as a
Yeah.
superhero, as a military contractor, essentially,
Hmm.
and it worked really well for his character. It looked really good. No complaints about the CGI. There's
Yeah.
some really cool moments. He's using
It's a
his
little dark sometimes. Batroc is
sure.
back also. Batroc
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Leaper.
Mhm.
Classic Winter Soldier villain, Batroc the Leaper.
Yeah. But I think introducing him to us with that sets the expectations for what the action is going to be like. Probably more down the line
Yeah.
rather than the in the upcoming future or
Hmm.
close future. But and then we pretty much instantly pivot to his personal life after that.
Yeah, he of course is intimidated, I would say, by the prospect of him becoming the new Captain America, him
Yeah.
being handed the shield by Steve. So he dedicates it. He gives it to that Captain America exhibit in the museum in the
Smithsonian.
Smithsonian that we
Yeah.
saw. And of course that comes around at the very end of the episode when we are introduced to U.S. Agent John
Mhm.
Walker.
Who
I
they're just
forget
calling Captain America.
who they're just calling Captain America. We don't know. I assume they did say the new Captain America.
Mhm.
But yes, it's John Walker, and he looks like a real wiener, as
He
Tucker said.
does, yeah.
He's got his ears are too big. He's got a weird chin. His ears stick out too much from the helmet.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think overall Sam's stuff it's interesting to see him. he's sort of leveraging his fame as an Avenger to like help his family get a loan for their
Yeah.
business. Which when you say it, it's not that interesting, and it's not incredibly interesting when we see it, but it's something, and we do get to see their personal lives, and I do appreciate that. Like you said, while we were watching, it's been a while. We've never really gotten the personal lives of
No.
Bucky or Sam. So
Yeah, well, I mean, for two different reasons for those characters. Sam, because he hasn't gotten the chance for that screen time. The
mhm,
movies he's been in, he's been a very sideline supporting character. We've just basically before this, all we knew was that he was in the military,
right,
and now he's not.
mhm,
But this, I think, was exciting for me to see because it gives us something to grab onto for his character. We know more about his family. We know about more of his personality. I think it's fun that he's able to leverage his Avenger popularity like that because that's something that none of the other heroes do, and it's
mhm,
kind of gives him a unique spin on being a superhero, and I think that'll also play into him, becoming Captain America. He'll even have more popularity, and he'll have
yeah,
to deal with that. But I thought that it worked really well to give him some not superhero side characters to interact with. We get his family now. We have that family history that's being built out with his father and his sister being a widow, and his nephews growing up during the blip. So he comes back and they're all
mhm,
grown up. There are a lot of interesting concepts there. We'll have to wait and see how they're pulled out farther
yeah.
to expand his character. But I think the ways that we were introduced to his personality and his personal life through this episode, I think worked really well.
Yeah. And of course, we got the other half of the titular characters of this series, and that
Mhm.
is Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
We first see
Good
him.
old
He's
James Buchanan Barnes.
James Buchanan Barnes is in therapy, and because he's had a rough one. He's had a rough 90 years, as we come to understand through his therapy sessions, through his nightmares, his flashbacks. He's going to therapy as sort of he has these nightmares about these contracts that he's had to carry out under Hydra, obviously, and that therapy scene was pretty good. I thought. I
Yeah.
did think that the camera work was really weird. It
Really weird.
would just cut between like top down close ups of their face. Very
Like this
strange.
angle.
Yeah, that angle right there. That was very strange. But the concept of him, going to therapy and him being very closed off, but having to do this, and also the his acts of retribution. There's a word that he calls it that I forget what it is, but it's basically him.
Retribution's good. Let's go with that
Yeah,
for now.
because he's trying to um
Atone for his sins.
atone for his sins.
Yeah.
He's sort of using his Winter Soldier skills for good, except he can't do anything illegal. He can't hurt people, and he has to say, "I'm no longer the Winter Soldier. I am James Barnes," and then smile.
And it says like, and this is to help me atone for my sins or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Which he does one of those.
He does. He does do the one,
So
which is a funny sequence. I like that he's like, "Of course, I didn't hurt anybody." He like crushes the guy's hand and punches him in the face.
yeah, so I think that sequence is a good introduction for his character, um, because again, all we've seen him do, and essentially his entire life is, as he says, fucking fight to fight, just back to back. If you
Yeah,
track that
for
character,
90 years.
he falls off a plane and is kept in ice and is brainwashed by Hydra. And then he goes into ice in Wakanda, and then he
Hmm.
wakes up and it's an Infinity War, and then he gets blipped and he wakes back up and it's Endgame. Like he's in a crappy cycle there.
That can mess up with someone. I'd say that can definitely
Yeah,
mess with someone.
and I think the fact that they're exploring the psychology of that is very interesting, and I think
Hmm.
it'll give him a more interesting personality rather than just being closed off all the time. And of course, we get to see him open up a little more with his own supporting cast, which I think is fun to introduce
Yeah,
people
he
to.
has his old Yuki, is
Yori,
Yori, yeah,
yeah,
Yori, who towards the
this
end of the
old guy
episode,
who's kind of his buddy in the
yeah,
probably lives in the same apartment complex.
they go to dinner every week, or what, they go to lunch every week at a sushi place, and of course
Mhm.
that we learn that's because the Winter Soldier flashback that we had when he killed Yori's son,
Yeah,
when he was at a consulate or something like that, and he's sort of trying to again make up for the acts of his past and sort of comfort this old man in his final years when he doesn't have his son anymore. And
yeah.
honestly, that's a really great characterization for Bucky overall.
Mhm.
We of course see him go on a little bit of a battleship and beer date with the good old, with
Yeah.
the lady from the sushi place. That scene was fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Um,
It's fun to see a civilian play off of him like that. She
mhm.
doesn't know that he's the Winter Soldier. He says his age is 106, and
He's
she
like,
just
oh,
laughs
ha.
it off. There are a lot of things there that I think are unique for his character because we have only seen him in those situations. So while they might not have been mind blowing, I think
Mhm.
they're calmer, smaller moments of characterization that will allow us to get more into these characters. Unfortunately, I think I have to set my expectations that this is going to ramp up to more action rather
Yeah.
than more character development,
Character.
which is
Yeah.
what I want. But I think that the fact that they're starting with this gives us a ground level. Because I was telling you this while we are watching the episode, is that we're so used to being introduced to Marvel characters in their personal lives and seeing them become heroes.
Right.
These two characters, through the situations they've been put in, we've really only seen them as superheroes.
Is this the first
So,
time that we're getting like the side characters that we usually knew are now the focus? I think this is maybe the first time that that's happening.
well,
I guess
WandaVision.
you can make an argument that it was WandaVision, but I'd say they were more central characters because Vision was basically like this big reveal in Age of Ultron. Wanda was also sort of introduced as not a side character and also not a main character, I'd say, in Age of Ultron as well. But like Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson have always been side characters, the buddy to Captain America,
Mhm.
or the conflict to Captain America as well. But
Yeah, they're kind of both sidekicks essentially,
yeah,
and
exactly.
now we're seeing them fleshed out in their own.
Yeah,
And so going to the action stuff, we talked about the opening sequence, which again I
yes.
think is really good. The other ones, not like mind blowing. They're kind of just dark hand to hand combat, which is
Mhm.
not my favorite. I really think Winter Soldier is underwhelming. I'll never understand people who think it's a gripping political thriller.
Yeah,
But
it's not.
but I think uh getting those, and they're quick, all things considered.
Yeah,
It just kind of, satiates the people who want the Winter Soldier hand to hand combat that people loved so much
yeah.
in the film.
Because of
Um
we do get, of course, the conflict. The villains of this overall story will
yeah,
be the Flag Smashers, who we don't get a
have
lot of.
potential, but
They
they
have
have
a,
potential.
they have an interesting setup because they want the world to go back to the way it was after
During
the
the blip.
blip, during the blip,
Yeah.
and also they want a world without borders.
Now here's the thing. I think you're not putting two and two together,
Hmm.
because as the blip happened, half of all the world's governments got decimated and everything had to be restructured.
Yeah,
So we don't know a lot of what happened during the blip,
true.
but I mean, aside from what we saw in Endgame, but I think that there was sort of this world, unity while
Yeah.
they tried to figure things out and governments were so screwed up. And that's what I mean, I'm having to piece things together, which isn't necessarily a great thing.
Hmm.
But I think that concept of them wanting the world to go back to the way it was, even though half the people on the earth were dead, they want a world without borders is an interesting concept. But we'll just have to see how it plays out into the future, because they could just become generic grunt bad guys.
Yeah.
But if the political motivations of that tie into Baron Zemo and tie into
Oh,
some
I
sort of,
completely forgot that Baron
yeah,
Zemo was
some
in
sort of
this.
larger political narrative with US Agent and the government wanting
Yeah.
heroes and stuff, I think there could be a really interesting political narrative here for
Hmm.
this MCU world. But we're really only getting pieces of it so far because this was a much more personal episode.
Yeah. Speaking of the political sort of ramifications of this, it's no secret that on Twitter there's been some levying that the MCU is military propaganda,
Yeah.
and agree with that or don't agree with that, how you will. But initially when this movie opened, I'm like, oh well, this isn't a great. This is just some fuel to the fire to that claim. But
Mhm.
I do think that there is going to be some governmental corruption, as there often is in Marvel movies. It's
Yeah.
the military is working with Hydra again. It's Hydra again. It might be just Hydra again, or it might be Zemo pulling the strings and paying off people in the U.S. government.
Yeah.
It might be the U.S. government is propping up the Flag Smashers, and they're pitting their new Captain America against them. It could be any number of things. I'm interested to see where that plot line goes overall.
I'm
Um,
also interested to see what they do with US Agent as a character. I
yeah,
mean, he as far as we've seen from this episode, which he just got a bare bones introduction,
Hmm.
which by the way I thought was a little bit forced. It wasn't supernatural. His sister comes in, she's
You
like,
got
"Turn
to
on the
see
TV, it's
this.
going on." She's like, and then they watch the news,
Yeah.
and there's not really any emotional impact there. I mean, I'm glad they introduced that character early so we can have more involvement throughout the entire series.
Hmm.
But I'm also just interested to see if we get anything about him personally as John
Yeah.
Walker, as if he gets moments of interaction with Sam about being Captain America, or we get to see just his like scenes of just him talking with the government and then like telling him what to do and stuff. I think that could be really interesting. But we're also forgetting another character.
Who's
We
that?
had a cameo in this episode.
Oh, good
James
old.
Rhodes, Rhodey War Machine showed up, which
Hmm.
you know what? I'm happy they're doing those cameos. I really think that keeping the characters connected like that and having
Hmm.
them pop up every once in a while is really going to make the world feel more connected. It's going to make the characters feel more connected. I'm glad we're seeing. I mean, I think we've gotten hints of it, but seeing interactions between Sam and Rhodey, I
Hmm.
think there's a whole world here, and they lost a couple of communal friends.
Yeah.
So hopefully Brody shows up a couple more times, even if it's just in a military fashion. I don't think he's going to be War Machine at any point in this.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a cool moment. It was a nice moment of character interaction, and kept us grounded in the MCU. Like we're not just separated from everything else.
Yeah.
This still the world that we're used to.
Yeah. They say that this place takes place a few months after the end of Endgame.
Okay, was that true? I don't really remember
Yeah,
that.
he says a few months ago, billions of people came back, and
Sure. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. And
and
honestly, I think the ramifications of the blip are very interesting,
mhm.
interestingly handled in this.
It impacts Sam Wilson's personal life with his sister and
Exactly.
them struggling to get a loan to maintain the family business. So
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, there's just references throughout to people who were or were not, and or him being a hero and helping bring back the people who
yeah,
were. Well, he kind of did. Oh, he helped beat Thanos, but he wasn't part of the people who brought him back.
no,
But I think I'm glad we're seeing ramifications and the world. Like there was the vanished as a section in the Captain America exhibit. Like there's a history here that they're fleshing out a little more, and I'm
yeah,
very excited by that. And also, I think just the fact that they are stretching it out to be more reachingly impactful, like the fact that the loan people can't just give out loans to everyone because 3.5 billion people just came back and they all need
they
loans.
were gone for 5 years,
Yeah,
and now they're back, and people's lives readjusted, and it is very interesting. I think we talked about this with the Monica Rambeau stuff in WandaVision.
yeah,
That entire era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very interesting. I doubt we'll ever get like a blip series or a
yeah.
blip explanation, but in theory, it's certainly interesting.
Yeah, and I think it'll tie into stories in light ways throughout as we move farther away from it. It'll become more backgrounded. But I mean, I don't want them to focus on it too heavily, but I
Yeah,
think setting up interesting character conflicts and interesting world dynamics through such a major event is going to be very interesting. Like we were thinking, like, oh, they didn't spend a lot of time during the blip, so it kind of makes it feel not very impactful
mhm.
because everyone just came back. But there are social ramifications for half the world disappearing for 5 years and coming back. Like, and I think that exploring that will be very interesting. I don't know how much they'll delve into it, but
Okay,
it'll be throughout the rest of the content of Phase 4, and
yeah.
I'm excited for
Let's get
that.
back to the series itself, and we're going on rampant MCU speculation when we should be talking about rampant Falcon and the Winter Soldier speculation. Tucker, is it
Sure.
too early to put out wild theories? Is Steve Rogers on a moon base? Is he? Do you think we get him? Do you think we get him in we
Well,
we were burned by rampant speculation in WandaVision, and I say we go right back to it.
he's not a moon base.
What if he?
No one's ever been to the moon. None of the
No
characters
one's
have ever
ever
been
been
to
to
the
the
moon.
moon.
None of the characters have ever been to the moon. I don't think there's any moon stuff. I think that was just a funny line to be like, yeah, people are always going to come up with the weirdest shit online.
I think since they planted that seed, they could be teasing a potential Steve Rogers. Maybe on the penultimate episode, he's like, "Hey, you gotta go bring it to him, Sam and Bucky. You gotta stop fighting and be
He's fucking
heroes."
Skyping in from the moon.
Yeah,
And they're like, yo,
I'm
Steve,
on the
you're on the moon?
moon. He's in his spacesuit and he's like floating around. Yeah,
Not gonna
and it
happen.
I like I said, I completely forgot Zemo had anything to do with this. So it'd be interesting how they fold him into it.
Mm-hmm.
But
He's got a sock.
I think yeah, he's got his purple sock mask finally. But other than that, I think it's much too early to sort of figure out where any of this is going to go. But
Yeah.
I'm certainly going to be watching it week to week, and
Hmm.
so are you. And we'll be here every week to break it down on the Untitled Marvel Project. So thank you everyone for watching this first episode, and make sure to like, subscribe, hit up that Discord. Tell us what you thought about this episode in the comments or in the Discord, and we'll see you next week.